Alright guys, welcome to Formula 1 News. Red Bull have officially confirmed Sergio Perez's replacement for 2025. It is going to be Liam Lawson after all the speculation over the last couple of weeks, but understandably, Christian Horner has been forced into an explanation as to why they have snubbed Yuki Tsunoda yet again. Is the explanation fair from Red Bull's perspective? Is it about time Yuki looks at other seats available up and down the grid? Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. Before we begin, I know some of you guys will be aware of this already, but myself and a couple of business partners founded a fragrance house over the last few months with the goal of making incredibly high quality fragrances for a fraction of the price of your Tom Ford to Killian to Creed stuff like this, and maybe also to make some of the fans in the stands of these Formula 1 races smell a little bit better. But we launched our first fragrance just a couple of days ago now. It's a beautiful masculine deep Indian sandalwood with a little floral twist of rose at the end. You guys might not be into fragrances, that's perfectly fine. We'd appreciate if you follow along the social media, and I'll leave all the links in the description display. If you guys are into your fragrances, we do have a special launch offer, and if you're in the UK, you'll definitely get this in time for Christmas, which is if you pick up a full bottle and you add one of our travel vials to the collection as well, you'll get that thrown in for free until the new year. We do ship worldwide as well, so if that does sound interesting to either yourself or anyone you know, have a quick look, and if not, absolutely no problem at all. Let's get into the F1 stuff though. Ferrari, their reveal will be the 19th of February 2025 at Maranello. That's when they're going to debut the, next year's Ferrari, whatever they're going to call it, with of course Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc behind the wheel. Reportedly, Hamilton is going to drive a Ferrari for the first time between January 21st and 22nd next year. Depends on the weather conditions. That's going to be his first run, it seems, in old school Ferrari machinery, given that it's been a couple of years now since the ground effect Ferraris first became a thing. Hamilton can drive the F175, the SF23, but not the SF24 because of the 2-year time window between testing older Formula 1 cars. Hamilton's already visited Maranello. We believe he's learning a bit of Italian, but his first time in a Ferrari is expected to be towards the end of January. Carlos Sainz, of course, his time at Ferrari is now over. They did gift him a beautiful Daytona SP3 here, and it even says smooth operator on the edge, which I thought was kind of nice. There were also rumours they're actually gifting him an F175. I don't know how valid these rumours are. I think Gazzetta are talking about it, so I guess we'll see. It would be interesting if they do give him, the F175 beautiful Ferrari, but arguably the one that Sainz struggled the most with over the last few years. Of course, that was the 2022 Ferrari, which did explode under him a couple of times, notably Austria, of course. Before we get into the Lawson stuff, though, Valtteri Bottas confirmed as Mercedes reserve driver going forwards. They put this out and they say, what's next? Of course, we knew this was coming, but they confirmed it anyway today. 71,000 likes on this one. I think it's a good move for both parties, this. Unfortunately for Bottas, he's not able to get another drive elsewhere on the grid. I do think a return to Formula 1 for Bottas does make sense and surely will happen if he still wants to over the next couple of years or so, with the Cadillac team especially now available. But of course, Sergio Perez is also available. Cadillac might be interested there, but it seems Daniel Ricciardo, he's not going to come back, so that opens the door for Bottas. But let's not forget, Bottas was a phenomenal performer for Mercedes, obviously an integral part of their Constructors' Championship successes. Famously made 101 consecutive Q3 appearances for Mercedes on his run from 2017 until, Abu Dhabi, of course, 2021. So nice move, I thought, from Mercedes. Bottas will still be looking for a starting drive seat at some point, which is very unlikely to be at Mercedes again. However, it's not impossible this helps him get a drive somewhere else on the grid over the next, 18 to 24 months, I'd imagine, or potentially even for next year as well in 2026, when, who knows, teams might need another driver, maybe Red Bull need another driver if this Liam Lawson situation does not go to plan, which it may well not, based on the history of putting drivers with not much experience alongside Max Verstappen in a Red Bull racing car. Sergio Perez, though, is gone. 5 wins, 29 podiums, 3 pole positions his time at Red Bull Racing. I wouldn't call it impressive. And Christian Horner was talking about this in an exclusive with Sky Sports and made the following comments. Checo will no longer have driving duties, but will still be involved with the brand and with the teams. That was kind of as we speculated. This, though, was, I thought, quite remarkable because Is anyone buying this? Horner says any contract has performance clauses and criteria within it, but it didn't make any difference to this decision of Checo to step away and take a sabbatical. So, does Horner think we're stupid or something? Like, obviously, Red Bull fired this guy because he was performing terribly, and we're almost certain they've had to pay him a lot of money to make this happen, which is absolutely fair enough. But, and Perez in his announcement didn't say, oh, I'm decided, it's not worked out for me this year, I'm going to take a break, I'm going to step away, take a sabbatical or anything like that. The only person saying this is Christian Horner of Red Bull. Now, I know why they're saying it. They want to kind of say, oh, well, Perez, we didn't fire him because he was bad. Obviously, that would make Red Bull look terrible because they gave him a 2-year contract, right? And the fact that he is being let go from the deal 6 months later is an absolute shambles. But yeah, the way that Horner says it is like, oh, Checo just wanted to take a sabbatical. Like, surely he knows that we're going to be able to see through this, right? Like, this was not Checo's decision. Checo would have kept racing. He made it so clear, Perez, for like the entire season, he was going to drive next year's car. And obviously, we were here on the channel saying, don't know about that, Checo, they're probably going to fire you, which of course they have done. But Perez was adamant the whole season that he was, he's got a contract, he's going to drive next year. All of a sudden, he's changed his mind and taken a sabbatical. I don't buy any bit of it. And, well, Horner was also very damning on Perez as well, and understandably, when he said this. At the end of the day, we won 9 races, we had the most poles, we won 4 sprints, which is more than any team, and we won the Drivers' Championship with 2 races to go. Unfortunately, we had a 280-point deficit between our drivers, which became quite expensive for the Constructors' Championship. So, look, Horner isn't wrong on this one, but let's be real, you got rid of him because of this deficit. He didn't decide to leave of his own accord. And there was some more information today on exactly what led to Perez's removal. Apparently in June and July, when Perez was really falling off and he qualified 19th at the British Grand Prix, several senior engineers privately vented to Horner after that result. So, of course, the Monaco crash wasn't helpful as well. And yeah, apparently there were engineers not especially happy about Perez's performance. There was also this information as well, that apparently his manager, Julian Jacobi, drove a very hard bargain in his exit agreement and ensuring Perez received a new deal. So I don't know if Yuki Tsunoda needs to hire this guy or something, because he obviously cooked up a bit of a masterclass here, got Perez to agree and got Red Bull to agree to a contract extension back in June, which seemed ill-advised at the time and seems especially ill-advised today. But Red Bull did it with, I'm sure there was some sort of performance clause in there, but it still seems like they've had to pay him off big money to leave the team. But Perez's replacement is going to be none other than Liam Lawson in the Red Bull for 2025. This is the Red Bull Racing driver lineup for next year, and it is controversial to say the very least. Of course, for Lawson, it's fantastic. This is where he wants to be. A lifelong dream for me to join Red Bull, race alongside Max Verstappen, and he's proven he's a solid driver for sure. Is he good enough to cope with this challenge and pressure? I'm not so convinced. A lot of the community are not so convinced, especially because we've seen a similar story before. Kvyat, Gasly, Albon, it's not necessarily gone to plan for those drivers, and Lawson to some degree fits the mould of those type of drivers rather than of a Verstappen type driver who, would Red Bull put a Verstappen-like driver alongside Verstappen? Unlikely. I'm not saying Sainz is at Verstappen's level, but it was quite clear that Christian Horner did not want to deal with the consequences of putting a guy like Sainz alongside Max. Clearly, they don't think Lawson's going to be good enough to do some serious damage, but they do think he's going to be good enough to help them win the Constructors' Championship. But, of course, there are some who would debate that assessment. Now, Horner says the following: Liam's performances over the course of his 2 stints with VCARB, they're now going to be called Racing Bulls, basically, I would say, by pretty much everybody, have demonstrated that he's not only capable of delivering strong results, but that he's also a real racer, not afraid to mix it with the best and come out on top. Now, I do see where he's coming from here, because, let's not forget when Lawson was beefing with Alonso back at the US Grand Prix. Then he was beefing on track with Sergio Perez, threw his middle finger up, didn't he? Let's not forget at the Mexican Grand Prix, Perez's home race. Could you believe it? So, look, those type of things will have displeased some, but will have pleased some at Red Bull, saying, okay, this guy, he's got the energy, he's got the ambition, he's got the passion, he's going to be, he fits the mould of a Red Bull driver, I would say, Lawson on some level. Is he good enough? I think that is still a matter for debate, especially when it comes down to Yuki Tsunoda not getting the drive. Even Lawson mentions, because of course back in Brazil, people were kind of already talking about that he might get the drive next year, and there was some discussion, well, you don't want to do an Albon, you don't want to do a Gasly. I rate those drivers pretty highly, but both of them got chewed up and spat out by the Red Bull Verstappen machine, and as he said at the time, in fact, I wouldn't want anyone more as a teammate than Max. He's the best in the sport. It'd be very educational to compete against him, to be able to study his data every weekend and see exactly how he approaches it. It would be the ultimate challenge for me, so no, I'm not afraid, which is absolutely the right mentality, but still, this could be career-ending for Lawson, as we have, well, sometimes and nearly seen previously in the past. The big question, of course, though, was, okay, Lawson, I get it, why they've given him the drive in isolation, but with Yuki Tsunoda being a viable option, especially if you're trying to reclaim the Constructors' title, and what Yuki's been able to deliver this season, which has probably been his best season in Formula 1, it would have made a lot of sense, I would say, to put Yuki in the car. Most of the replies to this tweet are kind of saying, well, not sure, to say the very least on the matter, and obviously Yuki was then queried on because he's not got the Red Bull drive. What about the Honda ties? Because on some level he's a Honda driver. Honda are leaving Red Bull to partner with Aston Martin, and Yuki's like, well, you know, that wouldn't make sense for them to deny me because of that, and, you know, maybe that is the reason, maybe it's not the reason. I think there's a general feeling that many at Red Bull have made their mind up about Yuki years ago, and they're not particularly willing to change their mind, despite the fact that he's improved substantially over the last few years, and you know, has outperformed every teammate he's had over the last few years, and has the pace. There's no doubt about it. Does he have the resilience and those type of factors? I think he probably does, more so than he used to. Do I understand why Red Bull see Lawson as a better candidate in some mental aspects? Sure, I get it. To me, I don't think it was enough to sway my decision that way, but I feel like this was coming for a long time. So yeah, this is what Horner says. A couple of things have stood out to me with Liam, how versatile he is. You put him in a situation, he just gets on with it. If you remember his debut in Zandvoort after Daniel broke his fingers, he was racing against Max on his outlap, which, yeah, sure, but I don't know if that's enough reason for me. He went on to say this: it was very, very tight between the two of them. Yuki is a very fast driver. He's got 3 or 4 seasons of experience now. He did a very good job in the tyre test in Abu Dhabi for us, where the engineers were impressed with how he performed. So it's like, this is what we wondered. The Abu Dhabi tyre test was surely meant to be, on paper at least, a big benchmark for Yuki to either get the drive or not. Turns out he did the tyre test, impressed, apparently, the Red Bull engineers, and yet still it's like, oh yeah, you were great, Yuki, but we're not giving you the drive. With Liam, when you go and look into the analytics of his race pace, it was slightly better in the races that he did. His qualifying pace is very tight with Yuki, which is true, but Yuki still had on average a couple of tenths in hand, generally speaking. And you've got to assume that the potential with Liam, having only done 11 Grand Prix, is only going to get better and stronger. He's shown real mental resilience and toughness. Now, look, I get what he's saying there, but I'm not sure the logic fully checks out. Sure, will Lawson likely improve as he does more Grand Prix? Yeah, but you know, you're putting him straight into a Red Bull car, which is known to be the most difficult seat on the grid anywhere alongside Max Verstappen, and he doesn't have much experience. So sure, he can maybe improve, but like, this is not the seat to have that improvement in, right? Like, that's why you stay at Racing Bulls, to have that improvement for another season before then getting, you know, the hypothetical promotion. And also the idea that, oh well, he's not that many Grand Prix, so you'll see his potential improve. There's obviously some truth to that, but it only goes so far. He then went on to say this about Lawson: he's got that kind of gritty racer mentality, and obviously everything said here about Lawson is on some level kind of saying that it doesn't apply to the same degree about Yuki. He did a year in the DTM where he adjusted to driving a Ferrari GT car incredibly quickly alongside Albon and generally had the upper hand. And again, his racecraft has been one of his key strengths. He's not really afraid to go wheel to wheel and even rub wheels when necessary. So I think he's going to do a great job for us. The engineers have enjoyed working with him through the running that he's done this year. He's got a good work ethic as well. It's great to have Yuki still involved in the team, and of course he's on standby should he ever be required. But yeah, the bottom line is Lawson's in the seat. Yuki is not, for whatever reason you might speculate. But I do think Red Bull have made this difficult for Lawson again. We've seen them do this in the past. As I say, the whole Kvyat, Albon, Gasly era did not paint them in an especially good light. And sure, they've promoted one of their, junior drivers to get that seat, and it's exciting to see that potentially play out. But still, you've got to consider the fact that Lawson is going to have so much pressure on his shoulders here, going into that car and having, well, all the hate watching in the world. It's not necessarily Lawson's fault that people are preying on his downfall, but it's just a matter of circumstance that many in the community wanted Yuki to get a try, and because he's not, people are going to be watching Lawson like a hawk to see any mistakes. I mean, I've seen so many tweets go around today. For example, this one with 9 or so thousand likes, Liam Lawson 2025 mistakes. Right, I'm ready to put the list down, and obviously people are also putting these edits out, kind of saying, look, are you ready for the challenge? The Sainz days, obviously the Gasly, Albon, Kvyat, even like Ricciardo, who found his time at the team coming to an end, and obviously Perez in recent times as well, having to deal with the machine that is Max and Red Bull as a combination. So, good luck and Godspeed, I think, is the response here to Liam Lawson. And, people are saying the following: Liam's crew is actually over. He's going to get Albon and Gasly'd. There's nothing you can do about it because Verstappen's just going to smoke him to his grave. And, look, it's not, if this happens, it's not Lawson's fault necessarily. It's just this is a consequence of it going in this way. I will say, Lawson doesn't help himself when it comes to making sure the pressure's on. I do think Lawson is a driver with a mentality that probably can deal with this, but let's say he starts out the season and he's, a handful of tenths off Max, and the competition in terms of the, the championship standings is similar to where it is today, and Lawson isn't much better than Perez, the pressure will start to ramp up quickly. And Lawson isn't making many friends making the following comments. Sure, he's making friends at Red Bull and with Verstappen, absolutely. But he's definitely inviting some, Yuki fans or whatever to come through and hate watch him, basically, and prey on his downfall going into 2025. I hope that doesn't happen. I hope that Lawson really delivers in the Red Bull car. But I can't say that I'm convinced that it's going to be happening based on the evidence that we have seen over the last few years. But in Twitter, your thoughts in the comments below. It also, to be fair, as Motorsport points out, raised serious questions on the way that Red Bull have handled everything over the last few years. Promoting Lawson, but they had Ricciardo, who was meant to be Perez's replacement. That didn't work, because then they dropped Ricciardo for Lawson, and they've put him in anyway with not many Grand Prix. Obviously, they tried to give Ricciardo a chance, but you could argue that maybe they should never have done that and just put Lawson in the first place. He would have had more Grand Prix experience by now. But they tried a different approach. It hasn't really worked out for any party at all. And therefore, people are raising questions. All right, Yuki, he's got to be done with Red Bull now. This was his chance. He's not getting the chance. It's GG. What if Lawson doesn't deliver and they're looking to promote a driver from their sister team again? And if they promote Isaac Hadjar instead of Yuki, after Yuki, potentially will beat him, I don't know. Like, that would be mind-blowing to me. But, it wouldn't be mind-blowing because it would almost be expected now. So, the year's 2026. What team will Tsunoda drive for? Could it be Honda, as in Aston Martin? Could it be Cadillac, maybe? There are other options, because if I'm Yuki, you've got to find a way out of the Red Bull family sooner rather than later. But very much enjoyed your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.